Welcome back to Logan Rando Aquascaping. My name is Logan, and today I have an update for you guys on my UNS 5N. It's my little nano tank in my studio, and it's quickly becoming one of my absolute favorites. So it's been a little while since we did the update, and unfortunately I have to open up with some difficult news. So last time I shared this tank, I gave you guys lots of information about pea puffers, but unfortunately since that video, I've lost my beautiful pea puffer. One day I came in to do some maintenance and I couldn't find her, and unfortunately I shortly after discovered that she had jumped. So it's just a reminder that whenever we keep these species in these open top tanks, we really have to be careful, and we have to be cognizant that no matter how well you do things, there's always a risk of jumping. So I went through a little bit of a mourning phase and just kind of kept the tank empty for a while with no fish, and eventually I decided to stock it with a nano species, and I chose one of my favorite nano fish, the Boraris brigate, commonly known as the chili Rasbora. And out of all the fish we keep in this hobby, the chili Rasbora is my all-time favorite. I really love this species, and I've kept them in the past. Unfortunately, I haven't really had any issues with them jumping. So far so good in this tank, but of course I'm gonna really monitor things. So let's talk about how all the plants are doing. So if you look in the foreground, you can see that the Hemianthus cuba is generally doing pretty good. It is looking a little bit leggy and maybe not quite as vibrant as I would like to see it, but I chalked that up to the lighting. I have the lighting on 50%, which has been really integral in helping me get rid of algae and BBA. So I think as we begin to raise the light, the cuba will begin to look more vibrant, lush, and dense. And you can see on the right side, there's this big empty patch that I really want to fill. What I'm going to do is trim my little Aquaworks Iota mini terrarium. I'm going to take some of that cuba and I'm going to patch it up with that, because I have not been able to find a single pot of cuba locally. And as we move on back towards the midground, you'll see we have some clumps of Eleocharis pusilla, as well as some Hydrocotyle verticillata. And these plants are doing really well. I often trim and prune them to keep their little plant clumpings very much contained. I don't want the carpet to get overtaken by them. But overall, I think they're looking pretty cool, and they give the tank a really natural, interesting vibe. Then on either side of the tank, the Alternanthera rhynickii mini transitions us into the background, and the AR mini is just killing it. Pretty good coloration for being at only 50% lighting, and as we turn that lighting up, I think it's gonna look even more deep red and vibrant. If you're curious how red plants work, you can check out my video on the science of red plants. I do a deep dive and really go into the science of anthocyanins in that video, as well as how to bring out the reds in your plants. I'll go ahead and link that in the description. And then in the very back of the tank, on the left and right, we have some beautiful Cryptocorini green gecko. I'm really waiting for this plant to get bigger and fill out so that I can kind of tower the left and right corners. Right now it's a little bit too short for my liking. I really want it to be visible from a distance, and we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. And then in the middle of the background, we have some Rotala hra, which I recently trimmed. This is looking so-so, and again, I would probably attribute that to the moderate lighting we have in this tank, and it also hasn't been trimmed that many times. The more you trim Rotala hra, the more dense and lush it's gonna look, and also the higher the lighting, the deeper the red the color. So that's getting there as well. I'm gonna begin sculpting it as I go through more trimmings. So really the background is probably the weakest part of this tank for me, and with a little bit of patience and some time, it'll be up to par with the rest of the tank. So what have been some of the obstacles that I've overcome with this tank? Well, the biggest ones were I had some pretty bad green spot algae as well as BBA in this tank, and I'm happy to say it's almost completely gone away. And the way I solved that was through manual removal, being on top of my maintenance. I get in here twice a week, do really deep, heavy water changes. Because it's such a small tank, it's easy to drain like 70% of the water and really scrub things. And then there was really stubborn BBA on the dragonwood, and I really love this hardscape. Boost Plant provided it for me. However, BBA loves getting into the little nooks and crannies of the wood. So I'm happy to say that with the right tools, I was able to scrub it off, manually remove it, and the Aquaworks algae brush was so key. It's not really visible from a distance, and most of the time, that's really all I can ask for. In terms of a little tech update, I spoke a little bit about the lighting, but I'm using the ONF Flat Nano. Love this light, love the adjustable height. I've got it on the stand. That stand sits under the tank. And right now I'm running it at about 50%. Now I did that to help eradicate the green algae. And currently we're in what I refer to as the green zone. Things are good. Every time I do maintenance, I'm not having to scrub away more algae. Essentially things are getting better and better with each maintenance session. So probably after about 2 weeks, I could start taking some risks, and I think I'm gonna up the lighting to about 75%. Alternatively, I can lower the light a little bit so that we get a little bit more par hitting the plants. I really have to think about it. I think what I'll do is hit it at 75%, and then maybe like a month, 6 weeks later, try and up it to 100. And then from there, I can start lowering it very slowly to really bring out some nice vibrant colors. But you know, if this were your tank, you totally don't have to do any of that. It really depends on your lifestyle. If you've got a good balance where your maintenance isn't terribly difficult and you're not getting a ton of algae, there's really no reason to bring up the lighting. But because I like to experiment and push my limits and test things and, you know, figure out what I can do, I kind of have to go there. After all, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I think in a couple of weeks, I'll up the lighting. One really key thing I did that I think made a huge improvement with this tank was I improved the circulation and positioning of the lily pipes. So you can see in the front right, I have the inlet, and then in the back left, I have the outlet. And this really maximizes that circular laminar flow, which helps distribute oxygen, it helps distribute CO2, nutrients, and it does a really, really good job of keeping the tank algae free. So let's talk a little bit about the livestock. So we mentioned that unfortunately I lost my beautiful pea puffer, but on the bright side, I'm really, really enjoying these chili Rasboras. And alongside them, I've added a small school of some autocinkless catfish. They do a really, really good job of helping to maintain a clean tank and get rid of some of that surface algae, especially on the glass. So in addition to the auto catfish, I also have added some crystal red shrimp. And the cool thing about having multiple tank syndromes on a YouTube channel with a bunch of tanks is that I can kind of pull plants and livestock from different tanks and swap them around. So that's exactly what I did. I pulled a bunch of crystal red shrimp from one of my other tanks, popped them into here. It's got the same exact water parameters, so no drip acclimation necessary. But if you are transferring shrimp from one tank to another and you got different parameters, I do have an entire video on how to drip acclimate shrimp and why you need to do it in the first place. I'll go ahead and link that down in the description as well. But these guys are so beautiful. They're like an all-time classic, and I think they look so good on a green carpet. So what's up next for this tank? Well, I mentioned I'm gonna start pushing the lighting to really bring out better coloration and better plant growth, but I want to collaborate with my good friend Yuri Zuchayev's. I'm sure many of you already follow his channel. He has a series called Yuri's Scape Reviews, and I want to talk to him and submit this tank for a full-on Yuri Scape review. And then what I want to do is I want to take all his feedback and implement it and show you guys the results, because I've always got lots to learn, and in my opinion, he's one of the masters. So I think he'll have a lot of cool things I can do to improve this tank, and we'll keep things practical and things that you might even be able to do in your own tank and composition. So if you like my content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I know you're sick of hearing it from YouTubers, but little small channel like mine, it really helps the algorithm push my content out to more people. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys and gals next time.